Hi everyone, this is Mo Volans for Tuts Plus, and in this video we're looking into using arpeggiators. Arpeggiators in EDM, and I use the term EDM reluctantly. Electronic dance music. It's all electronic dance music, isn't it? Anyway, this is an electronic dance track, I guess. It's electronic. Anyway, it's got an arpeggiator in it. I'm just starting a project here, and because this subject came up and this has got an arpeggiator in it, I thought it might be quite a nice way to cover it. So you're seeing a track at its inception with the arpeggiator running. And what I'm going to do is show you two different approaches to using arpeggiators, arpeggios, and one is using sort of the synth's internal arpeggiator, and another is using a MIDI plugin. You end up with the same result, hopefully, using both routes, but you know, it just allows you a bit of freedom in case you're using a synth that hasn't got an arpeggiator. Now I'm using the Access Virus TI here, but honestly, don't let that bother you. Don't be like, I haven't got an Access Virus, you know, I can't do this. To be honest, you can do it with any synth that's got an arpeggiator in it, because this is the reason I chose this, is it's very basic. And I'm also using Logic's internal arpeggiator plugin. Again, Cubase, Reason, Ableton all have them. They all work in a very similar manner. I'm going to show you the basics of an arpeggiator, and hopefully you can translate this using some common sense. Okay, right. So here's the synth. I'll play you the arpeggiator in the track, right? You can hear me messing around with the pitch bend there. I'm just playing about, but okay, so let's isolate it. You might hear some clicks and pops. It's just the USB. The virus is coming across USB, so you might hear the odd click and pop, but just please ignore it. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Let's have a look first of all at what's happening and what's, you know, being generated, what's generating the arpeggio. This is sort of the chord here. I think the original chord is that of those three notes. If I let's turn it off, and you can sort of hear. It's those three notes there. And then I just change the root note as the sequence goes along. So in fact, let's put it on polyphonic, and you can sort of hear the whole thing as a chord. Not very pretty, but that was essentially what was played. If we put it in mono mode and then switch the arpeggiator on, you should hear it come to life. Okay, so let's start to look at the modes. You know, any chords played like this should generate an arpeggio. The fact that I've got the root notes, or the top notes at least, carrying on shouldn't matter. You can repeat these whenever. It's basically any chord you play will be translated into this sequence, so that, you know, any sustained chord will just basically be cut into notes. An arpeggio, that's what an arpeggio is. And the arpeggiator's job is to create these patterns for you. And using the settings that you're going to find in most arpeggiators, you should be able to manipulate the outcome pretty well. So first thing is to think about is the mode. I'm just going to set everything to very, very basic settings. Obviously we start with off, and that will just not work and you will hear the chords. Then we've got up. And this is going to play the notes in sequence up. So you're going to go from the bottom note. Let's zoom this in a little bit. You're going to go from the bottom note to the next note to the next note, and then start again. Okay, so bottom note, this note, then the top note, and then start again. So boom, boom, boom. And it's going to do that in sequence. And the opposite is down. So it's going to go top note, middle note, bottom note, and it's going to repeat. And then you've got up and down. Bottom, middle, top, and then back, and it'll just keep going backwards and forwards throughout these three notes. And then you've got as played. So if you have a sequence that's maybe sort of slightly out on the timing, and certain notes are played at certain points, the arpeggiator will just literally take the notes as they come in, and it will be as played. Then you've got random, which is obviously random. Then you've got chord and art matrix. We're going to leave those because most arpeggiators don't have them. So these are really the ones you're going to be taking notice of. Random will just literally play them in random order. Let's have a listen to them and you should be able to hear the difference. So this is up. You can hear it going up through the sequence. Let's slow it down. And let's go down. So literally the opposite. Up and down. I quite like up and down, generally use it quite a lot. As played isn't going to make a huge amount of difference here. Random. So let's go with up and down. And the pattern I'm going to leave because this just allows you to make a user pattern here. And a lot of arpeggiators, again, haven't got this. So I'm sticking to functions that you're going to see in pretty much every arpeggiator you use. Right, then we've got Octave Range, which is interesting. At the minute, you're hearing it being played as is with Octave Range of 1. Now, if I was to change the Octave Range to 2, it's going to go an octave above as well. And then back down. So it does it in order. It plays the original octave first and then the octave above. You can go to 3 octaves, so it's going to play the original octave, one above, the one above that. And then you can even go to 4. Not a lot of arpeggiators have 4, you'll often see 1 and 2 octave. Then we've got resolution, and this is just the speed. I'm going to go back to say 2 octave range. Now we're at 8th notes at the minute, we can go to 16ths. That's what we were at. Then we've got note length, which is sort of a gate. If you want sort of legato style, you can turn the note length all the way up. Then we've got swing. We'll add a bit of swing timing into it. I had like a touch on, I think. And I think I was at 1 octave range, but go with 2. And then hold is interesting. So if you've got hold on and you play a chord, and I'm just going to play one in the keyboard, I've just let go of that and it's just continuing to play. And again, play another chord and it will continue to play that chord. And again. And if I turn it off, it'll stop playing. So with hold off, I can hold the chord down, but as soon as I let go, it will stop playing. So hold's quite cool because you can whack it in and then continue to mess around with your synth and continue to manipulate the parameters. So this is really as simple as it gets. You're going to see, anywhere you see an arpeggiator and a synth, you're going to see these functions really. And you've seen it in action, you've seen it in the mix, and it works fine. Now let's imagine this synth didn't have an arpeggiator, okay? Let's say the virus or whatever synth we're using just played this sound and we didn't have any sort of internal arpeggiator. Now you could use a MIDI effect, and in Logic there's quite a few, and one of them is the arpeggiator. But like I say, in pretty much every other synthesizer, in every other DAW, you've got an arpeggiator, so don't worry about it. There was a time when these things, you know, were quite sort of rare, and I think Cubase was about the first one to introduce it. But Logic's had one for a while, at least in the environment. Now it's a really nice, pretty graphical user interface. It's really easy to use. So let's go ahead and sort of try and recreate what we had in the last version in the virus arpeggiator. So the octave range, we were on 2. We were on up and down, we were at rate 1/16. And you can see that's pretty much exactly the same. We can change the octave range to 3, to 4. We've got up. We can change to 8. Down. We've even got up and down the opposite way, which is quite cool. Random, and this is as played. Now, it's really good because we can create this right within Logic and we can switch the synth. So if you wanted to, you can completely switch the synth out. Same in Cubase, same in Reason. You know, once you've got your arpeggiator in place and you're happy with the pattern, it's all good. Second good thing here is that we can program in patterns. I'm not going to get into that now because I'm just showing you the basics of an arpeggiator. But also we can dump the pattern as MIDI, okay? So once it's playing, I'm going to put it in up and down mode. We can grab this and we can dump it into a MIDI part. I think I need to dump it into this same MIDI part. There you go. So if you wanted to, you could now dump this MIDI part, turn the arpeggiator off, put this MIDI part in place, repeat it, and you should have the part that we generated. Let's just get rid of this. And that's a really good visualization of what's happening in up and down mode. Okay, so that's exactly what was generated by the arpeggiator. Logic's arpeggiator, really nice, probably a bit clearer than the Virus one. Also, you might find that your internal DAW arpeggiator is probably a little tighter in timing because obviously the code is occurring right within the core of the DAW as opposed to in a third-party synth. And the Virus one definitely floats in and out when it fancies it. So I'd say this is probably the best way to go. And like I say, you can switch your synth out. So hopefully this has given you a bit of a good introduction, a solid introduction into arpeggiators. If you've never used one, or if you're thinking about using one and you weren't too sure, this should get you going. And if you've got any more questions on it, please leave them in the comments. And as usual, let me know what you want to see. Let me know what tutorials you want to see, and I'll try and put them in my to-do list. But that's me out for now, and I'll see you later.